Picture this. It's 8:30 a.m., March 18th, 2025. I walk into conference room B on the 6th floor of Apex Defense Solutions, and there's Miles Walsh, our new COO, been here all of 10 weeks, sitting at the head of the table in a pressed gray suit. Sandra Howell from HR is right next to him with a leather folder already open on the table. On my way in, I'd passed the parking garage on the ground floor. Two cars I didn't recognize, a black Audi SUV and a rental with a Hertz sticker. Someone had come in early for this. I knew exactly what kind of meeting this was before I even pulled out my chair. What Miles didn't know was that I had a document sitting in a filing cabinet at home that I hadn't looked at in 16 years. A document that was about to change everything about this conversation. My name is Carl Briggs. I'm 54 years old. I spent 8 years in the Navy before I got out and moved into IT. I joined Apex Defense Solutions in 2009 as an IT systems specialist. That was my official title. The job description HR had on file said server maintenance, network infrastructure support, and user account management. Starting salary, $72,000. By March 2025, I was making $108,000 base, plus a 12% annual bonus. But here's what actually mattered. My job description and my real job hadn't lined up in about 14 years. When you work somewhere that long, especially in IT, at a defense contractor, you absorb everything nobody else wants to touch or knows how to handle. It starts small. You fix one thing because it's blocking your own work. Someone asks you to fix it again next time, then it becomes your thing. And before long, you're the only person in the building who understands how half the systems actually run. That was me. In 2011, I built the company's entire deployment pipeline from scratch. The old process was manual, took 5 to 6 hours every time we pushed code to production. I automated it. We went from bi-weekly releases to daily releases. Nobody asked me to do it. I just saw the problem and fixed it. That pipeline saved roughly 125 hours of engineering time every week. At $80 an hour average cost, that's around $520,000 a year. One project, I didn't get a promotion. I got a handshake from Walter Grayson, our CEO at the time, and a $4,000 year-end bonus. Then there was the monitoring dashboard I built in 2013. Before that, we averaged about 19 minutes to detect an outage. After, under 3 minutes. That kind of response time matters when you have federal clients with 99.9% uptime written into their contracts, and the cloud optimization script ran every week in the background, automatically adjusted our reserved instances based on usage patterns. Saved around $240,000 a year. Just running quiet, doing its job, nobody thinking about it. None of this was in my job description. But Walter Grayson knew. He saw it. Every annual review he'd say, "Carl, you're the one keeping the lights on around here." He meant it. Walter retired in November 2024. That's when Miles Walsh arrived. Miles was 45, MBA from Wharton, came out of consulting McKinsey, I think. He talked a lot about operational efficiency, role clarity, eliminating redundancy. In his first all-hands meeting he said, and I remember this clearly, "We're going to tighten up how work gets done. Everyone needs to operate within their defined scope so we can scale properly." I didn't think much of it at the time. New leadership always talks like that. But then he started asking questions. Who owns the deployment pipeline? Who manages vendor relationships? Who built the monitoring system? Every answer came back the same. Carl Briggs. I could see it bothered him, like he couldn't figure out why one IT specialist had his hands in so many things. Then about a month in, he brought in his nephew, Owen Walsh, 25 years old, fresh out of college, no real-world experience. Miles had him placed on the IT team as a junior infrastructure analyst. He was supposed to shadow our systems during the transition period. I was polite about it, showed Owen around, explained how things worked. Decent enough kid. Just had no business being near a production environment. March 18th, 8:30 a.m. Conference Room B. I sat down across from Miles and Sandra. They both smiled, the kind that's professional, but doesn't reach the eyes. "Carl, thanks for coming in," Miles said. "We're doing a role alignment review across the IT org, making sure responsibilities match job descriptions and compensation bands." Sandra slid a document across the table. My job description, the one from 2009. Server maintenance. Network support, user account management. Miles leaned forward. You've clearly been valuable here, but as we've reviewed how work is distributed, we've noticed you've taken on a lot of responsibilities outside your role. The deployment pipeline, cloud optimization, vendor relationships, those should be owned by our DevOps team going forward. We're bringing in Dustin Farr next month as DevOps manager. He'll take over your tooling. Vendor relationships will roll up to me. You'll transition everything over the next 4 weeks. I looked at him, then at Sandra. So you want me to stop doing the things I've been doing for 14 years? We want you to focus on what you were hired to do, Miles said. Stick to your job description. You'll still have plenty server patching, user accounts, support escalation. That's important work. I sat there for a second. Okay, I said. Miles blinked. Okay? Yeah. If you want me to stick to my job description, I'll stick to my job description. Sandra looked relieved. They outlined a transition plan. I walked out. Here's what they didn't know. What nobody knew except Walter Grayson, because he was the one who set it up. Back in 2009, right after I'd finished building the first major systems, Walter had gone to the board with a concern. He told them straight, if Carl Briggs walks out the door tomorrow, we're in serious trouble. The board approved what they called a key person retention agreement. It was a side letter separate from my employment contract, signed by me, Walter, and Harriet Dunbar, who was board chair at the time. The agreement said that any proprietary tooling or infrastructure systems I developed outside the scope of my standard job description remained my intellectual property. The company held a perpetual license to use them, but if they wanted to transfer ownership to another employee or use them in a way that materially changed their function, they needed my written consent first. And if I didn't give that consent, they had 2 options. Pay me fair market value defined as no less than 3 times the annual cost savings generated by those systems, or stop using them entirely. Walter had filed it with the board minutes from Q3 2009 under Key Person Risk Mitigation, not in my personnel file, not in the standard contract system. And when he retired, he sent me a scanned copy with a short note. Hold on to this, Carl. You might need it someday. I printed it, put it in a folder, and filed it away. Hadn't thought about it in 16 years, until March 18th, 2025. I went back to my desk, updated my Slack status, and did exactly what Miles asked. The deployment pipeline, not my problem anymore. Dustin Farr would own it when he started in 3 weeks. Until then, maintaining it wasn't in my job description. The monitoring dashboard, same situation. Cloud optimization script. I turned it off. Vendor relationships. I forwarded everything to Miles with a short note saying he now owned those relationships per the March 18th meeting. I processed user account requests. I applied server patches. I answered Tier 3 support tickets. I kept a record of everything, and I waited, day 1 Monday, March 24th. Gary Pruitt, one of our senior engineers, messaged me on Slack at 11:43 a.m. Carl, the deployment pipeline is throwing errors on the prod push. Can you take a look? That's outside my scope now, Gary. You'll need to escalate to Miles or wait for Dustin to start. Long pause, then. Carl, we have a release scheduled for 2 p.m. If we can't deploy, we miss the deadline for the Caldwell Defense integration. Escalate to Miles, I said. He owns that now. Gary did. At 1:40 p.m., Miles called me. I let it ring twice before I picked up. Carl, what's going on with the pipeline? I'm not sure. I'm not maintaining it anymore. That's what you told me on March 18th. I didn't mean we still need things running until Dustin starts. I'm keeping things running. I processed 17 user account requests today, patched 9 servers, and closed 3 support tickets. That's my job description. If you want me to maintain the pipeline too, we should update my job description and talk about what that looks like. Another pause. He asked me to just fix it for today. We'd sort out the details later. I didn't fix it. The 2 p.m. release missed its window. Day 2, Tuesday, March 25th. The monitoring dashboard stopped sending alerts. The license key I'd configured renewed every 90 days, and the renewal was due that morning. Renewing vendor licenses wasn't in my job description anymore, so I hadn't touched it. At 9:18 a.m., one of our production databases started throwing errors, high CPU, slow queries. Normally, the dashboard would have flagged it within 3 minutes and paged the on-call engineer. Instead, it went undetected for 43 minutes. By the time someone noticed manually, 23 customers were reporting intermittent outages. This wasn't just a customer service problem. Apex held 3 active federal defense contracts. 2 of them had uptime requirements written directly into the agreement language. A 43-minute undetected outage was a compliance event. the kind that gets logged, reviewed, and sometimes escalated to the contracting agency. Miles didn't understand that yet, but Harriet Dunbar on the board did, and I knew it was only a matter of time before she found out. Miles messaged me. Why didn't the monitoring system alert us about the database issue? The dashboard license expired this morning. Vendor renewals roll up to you now. You didn't think to flag that it was expiring? I kept a calendar of renewal dates while I owned that responsibility. I assumed you'd set up your own tracking system after March 18th. He didn't respond. Day 3 Wednesday. The AWS cost projection came in 22% over budget. The optimization script had been off for 5 days, and without it automatically adjusting our reserved instances, we were running inefficient across the board. I forwarded the report to Miles with no comment. Cloudflare sent a notice about a DDoS mitigation rule that needed updating. I forwarded it to Miles. He didn't know what it was. He forwarded it to Brenda Calloway, our VP of Operations. Brenda forwarded it back to me. I replied to her, "This is a vendor management item. Please coordinate with Miles Walsh. The rule didn't get updated. Day 4, Thursday morning. We got hit with a layer 7 DDoS attack."
Not massive, but the outdated mitigation rule couldn't catch the new pattern. API response time slowed by 300%.
It took our security team 4 hours to manually contain it. 4 hours of degraded service, 91 customer complaints, and 2 federal contract managers calling Brenda directly asking what was happening to their systems. At 2:34 p.m., I got a calendar invite. Emergency infrastructure continuity. 4:02 p.m. attendees, me, Miles, Brenda, Sandra, and 2 names I didn't recognize. I showed up at 3:58. Miles looked like he hadn't slept. Brenda Calloway was at the table typing hard on her laptop. Sandra had the same leather folder from March 18th. The 2 people I didn't recognize turned out to be Harriet Dunbar, former board chair, now a board advisor, and Patrick Oren, outside legal counsel. This was no longer a department meeting. This was a legal situation. Miles started talking before I'd fully sat down. "Carl, we need to talk about what's been happening this week. The deployment pipeline is broken. Monitoring went dark. We've had 3 outages in 4 days. Our AWS spend is tracking 22% over budget. And every time someone asks you for help, you say it's not your job." "That's correct," I said. "On March 18th, you told me to focus on my core responsibilities and transition ownership of those systems to other people. I've been doing that." Brenda leaned forward. "Carl, you built these systems. You're the only one who knows how they work. We need you to fix them." "I understand. But you reassigned ownership of those systems. If you want me to work on them going forward, we should update my job description and talk about compensation." Patrick looked at me steadily. "Mr. Briggs, are you refusing to perform work that's critical to company operations?" "No. I'm performing everything outlined in my job description. If the company wants additional work outside that scope, we should discuss it formally." Harriet had been quiet the whole time. She was watching me with sharp, careful eyes, the kind of attention that comes from decades of reading rooms. Then she said quietly, "Carl, do you have something you want to put on the table?" I reached into my bag and set a folder in the center of the table. "Before we talk about going forward, I think everyone should read this first." Miles picked it up. Key Person Retention Agreement. He looked up. "What is this?" It was signed in 2009 by me, Walter Grayson, and Harriet Dunbar. Filed with the board minutes from Q3 2009 under Key Person Risk Mitigation. Harriet's expression didn't shift, but something moved behind her eyes. She remembered. Miles scanned it, handed it to Patrick. Patrick read it once, then read it again. He set it down carefully. "Is this enforceable?" Miles asked. Patrick looked at Harriet. "Did the board actually approve this?" "Yes," Harriet said. Walter brought it forward as a risk mitigation measure. Carl had built several critical systems entirely on his own initiative, outside his standard duties. The board was concerned about key person dependency. The agreement was designed to incentivize his retention by giving him ownership of the IP he created. Miles's voice went up slightly. "By giving him ownership of infrastructure that runs on company servers, the company retained a perpetual license to use the systems," Harriet said. "Ownership of the intellectual property stayed with Carl. If Apex wants to transfer that ownership to another employee without Carl's consent, or use the systems in a way that materially changes their function, Carl can demand fair market value or revoke the license." Patrick tapped the document. And fair market value is defined here as no less than 3 times the estimated annual cost savings generated by the systems. The room went quiet. Miles stared at me. You're saying we can't hand these systems off to Dustin without your permission? Or without compensating me? Yes, that's what the agreement says. Brenda had gone pale. Carl, the deployment pipeline alone. We push 30 to 40 builds a day. If we lose access to that, we go back to manual releases. That's hundreds of hours of engineering time every month. I know, I said. I built it. How much? Miles asked. His voice was flat now, controlled. I'd done the math the night before, sitting at my kitchen table with a legal pad. The deployment pipeline saved roughly 125 hours of engineering time per week. At 80 as an hour, that's $520,000 a year. 3 times that, $1,560,000. The monitoring dashboard reduced incident detection time and saved an estimated $85,000 a year in response costs. 3 times that, $255,000. The cloud optimization script saved $20,000 a month, $240,000 a year. 3 times that, $720,000 total, by the agreement's formula, $235,000. I wasn't there to squeeze every dollar out of them. I was there to be taken seriously. I'll transfer full ownership of the deployment pipeline, monitoring dashboard, and cloud optimization tooling for $1.99 million, I said. Paid out over 24 months. Along with that, I want my role reclassified to Principal Infrastructure Architect, reporting directly to Brenda, at $168,000 base salary with a 20% annual bonus target and written authority over any infrastructure decisions that touch systems I've built. Nobody spoke for a moment. Miles said, that's not a reasonable number. Harriet said quietly, it's below fair market value by the terms of the agreement we signed. We could build new systems, Miles said. You could, I said. How long do you think that takes? 6 months? A year? The Caldwell Defense integration closes in 8 weeks. That's a $5.2 million contract. If you can't deploy updates reliably on their timeline, that deal doesn't close. I paused. And there's a federal compliance audit coming up that requires documentation of our infrastructure architecture going back 3 years. I'm the only person in this building who knows how to prepare that. Brenda closed her eyes briefly. Patrick looked at Miles. Mr. Briggs isn't asking for anything outside the terms of the contract. The board signed it. It's binding. Harriet stood up. I need to make some calls. Miles, Brenda, will reconvene tomorrow morning at 9. Carl, can you keep things running for the next 24 hours? If I'm being compensated for it, we'll pay you $250 an hour consulting rate, effective right now, for any work outside your job description. That works. She looked at Miles. Get the deployment pipeline back online. Renew the monitoring license. Do whatever Carl tells you needs to be done tonight. Then she picked up her folder and walked out. Nobody else said anything. I finished my coffee, stood up, and left them sitting there. The board met the next morning without me. I found out later from Brenda, who felt bad about the whole thing, that Harriet had set up an emergency Zoom call at 7 a.m. and laid out 2 options, plain and simple. Option 1, pay Carl the $1.9 million, give him the title and the authority he's asking for, and get the infrastructure stabilized before the Caldwell deadline. Option 2, lose access to the systems entirely. Spend the next 12 months rebuilding from scratch, and do all of that while bleeding customers, risking federal contract violations, and walking into a compliance audit completely blind. The board took about 20 minutes. At 11:52 a.m. on Friday, March 28th, I got an email from Sandra in HR. Subject line, updated offer, Principal Infrastructure Architect. I rate it twice. Everything I'd asked for was in there. $1.9 million in IP transfer fees, paid in equal monthly installments over 24 months starting April 15th. Base salary of $168,000 and 20% annual bonus target. Title change to Principal Infrastructure Architect, reporting directly to Brenda Calloway. Written approval authority over any infrastructure decisions touching systems I had built. Then I got to page 8. There was a clause I hadn't asked for. In recognition of Carl Briggs's long-term contributions to Apex Defense Solutions technical infrastructure, the company agrees to issue 12,000 stock options at current fair market value of $16.50 for share, vesting immediately upon signing. I read every word of that contract, all 10 pages. Took me about an hour. Then I set it on the kitchen table and went to bed. Monday morning, March 31st, I signed it in Sandra's office. Harriet was there. Brenda was there. Miles Walsh was not. The first payment hit my account on April 15th at 2:09 p.m. I was at my desk when the notification came through. I just sat there looking at my phone for a while. Didn't say anything to anyone, just sat there. It was real. Miles resigned 5 weeks later. He took a VP role at a firm in Denver. On his last day, he packed up his office and left without saying a word to anyone on the floor. Owen Walsh, his nephew, cleared out his desk the same week. Didn't say goodbye either. 2 chairs empty by the following Monday, and the work just kept moving. Dustin Farr, the DevOps manager they'd brought in, ended up reporting to me. Good engineer, solid instincts. We worked well together from the start. He never once complained about the reporting structure, which I respected. Apex closed the Caldwell Defense integration on schedule. $5.2 million contract signed and done. The federal compliance audit came through clean. Brenda sent me a bottle of bourbon with a handwritten note. Thank you for not letting us burn down. I still have that note. 18 months later, October 2026, Apex Defense Solutions was acquired by a larger defense technology firm for $280 million. My 12,000 stock options converted at the acquisition price. After taxes, I cleared $98,000. The final IP payment came through in April 2027, right on schedule. I'd been putting the monthly payments into index funds the whole time. Between that and the options, I bought a place outside San Antonio, 3 bedrooms, just over 2 acres, quiet roads, good views of the hills in the morning. Nothing extravagant, just solid and mine. I'm still at Apex under the new ownership, principal infrastructure architect. I lead a team of 7 now. The difference between then and now is simple. People ask my opinion before decisions get made, not after things break. That's all I ever wanted, really. Not the title, not even the money, just to be in the room before the damage happens instead of after. Harriet Dunbar retired from the board last spring. She sent me an email on her last day. Short, just a few lines. It said, Walter knew exactly what he was doing when he set up that agreement. I'm glad I signed it. Companies forget that the people doing the invisible work are the ones holding everything together. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small for knowing things they don't. I've thought about that a lot, because here's the thing, nobody tells you when you're coming up in a career. The work that looks the least impressive from the outside, the systems nobody sees, the scripts running at 3 a.m., the vendor calls nobody else wants to take, that's the work that matters most when everything falls apart. That's the foundation. And the person who built the foundation doesn't disappear just because someone new shows up with a whiteboard and a reorganization plan. Miles thought he was cleaning things up, bringing clarity, running a tighter operation. What he actually did was hand me a 16-year-old legal agreement and 4 days to prove what it was worth. I didn't walk into that emergency meeting looking to ruin anyone. I walked in because they called the meeting. I sat down because they invited me. And I put that folder on the table because someone asked the right question at the right time. I just did exactly what he told me to do. Stick to your job description. Turns out the job description wasn't the problem. The problem was that nobody in that building except me knew what the real job actually was. That's worth knowing. About your company, about your team, and most importantly about yourself. The work you do that nobody notices is not invisible. It's just waiting for the right moment to speak for itself. So that's the story. Would you have handled it differently? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this one, hit subscribe. There's more coming. The man who built the foundation doesn't vanish when new management arrives with a reorganization chart. He just waits quietly, patiently, until the building starts to shake. Most companies measure what they can see on a dashboard. They never think to measure what disappears the day the wrong person walks out the door. 16 years of showing up early, fixing things nobody asked you to fix, and knowing every system by heart, that's not just experience, that's leverage. You just have to wait for someone foolish enough to hand you the moment to use it. Power in a workplace doesn't always look like a title or a corner office. Sometimes it looks like a quiet man with a folder in his bag and 16 years of receipts. When someone tells you to stop doing the work that actually matters, the smartest thing you can do is listen and let them find out exactly what that work was worth.